Cyber liability insurance is a unique insurance product that provides not only first-party but also third-party coverages in the event of an organization's data breach. A data breach, in simplest terms, could be the loss or theft of personally identifiable information, whether that's social security numbers, dates of birth, credit card information, essentially anything an organization should not be letting out. In the event of a data breach, the organization would have various legal requirements and administrative functions that they would have to perform to handle that breach. The cyber liability policy not only provides the traditional insurance aspect of paying for some of those costs associated with a data breach, but also provides some of the services involved that can help you navigate through the myriad of state laws that can make a data breach a nightmare for most organizations. Well, you can't look at the news today without seeing the latest example of a massive data breach affecting thousands or even millions of people. Any organization that has personally identifiable information, whether it's in their databases or in paper format, has a cyber liability exposure. And we do recommend strong policies and procedures, password protection, encryption, that can help mitigate the risk of a data breach, but you can never fully protect yourself, which is where the insurance policy could come in. There is a cliche in the insurance industry that it's not if but when you suffer a data breach, but specifically with cyber liability, I've actually heard it taken a step further in that it's organizations that know that they've been breached and organizations that don't yet know that they've been breached. Well, as I've mentioned, cyber liability policy provides first and third-party coverages in the event of a data breach. For our clientele, our priority has been making sure that the first-party coverages are at adequate and broad levels. These are the immediate costs associated with a data breach and how you immediately respond to it. Forensics, legal advice, notifications, and credit monitoring. If that is handled accurately, efficiently, and quickly, that could actually help mitigate some of the risks on the third-party side, which are the subsequent lawsuits that could follow a data breach. One of the major components of a cyber liability policy is how the carrier actually handles the data breach. Do you want to maintain control of that process, with the carrier maybe providing some coaching or giving you a choice of vendors, or do you actually want to hand the whole process off to the carrier and let them handle it with their expert vendors that are all ready to go? We see value in both approaches. So you can also evaluate the limits of liability, the sublimits, as these services will have a dollar amount associated that they'll be capped at, as well as the retentions, which are the actual out-of-pocket costs that you would have before the coverage kicks in. You should have all the services available to you from the outset because it helps get through the breach notification process more smoothly, but you may be footing the bill at the front end. Well, just like any other insurance product, it is going to depend. But for cyber liability, we've seen underwriters focus on two major areas when determining a premium. The first is the number of records. From their perspective, they're looking at the worst case scenario. How many letters are they going to have to do? How many people do they have to offer credit monitoring to? For a large set of records, there is going to be a price associated with that. The other major area which you do have some control over are the policies and procedures you have in place. Password protection, encryption, record retention. With strong policies in place, you actually could reduce the risk of having a data breach, which looks good to an underwriter, but in some cases these policies are required by law. So without having them in place or up to date, you might be out of compliance, which could open you up on the liability side. Overall, we've seen prices in the cyber liability market come down from when we first started looking at it a few years ago, but they still range from quite inexpensive to what some would consider cost prohibitive. Cyber liability is a complex topic, not just the exposure itself, but the insurance product designed to respond to it, and it's evolving, so it's important to stay on top of all the issues. We hold periodic webinars dealing with cyber liability, and also have a website that we put publications and information on cyber liability. Of course, you're also able to contact me directly with any questions.